Sade's 1985 album Promise is the first album that I want to share with you all here today. Now, most of these albums that I'm going to be talking about, I don't really seek out, right? I'm a metal guy. I'm not really out there looking for 80s jazz pop records for the most part. These records that I'm going to be talking about simply came to me, I guess, right? The musical muse blessed me with their presence, so to speak. For me, I found this record through Vaporwave, actually. I was a big Vaporwave fan, and the classic, innovative 2011 Floral Shop by Macintosh Plus featured this song. It's actually the first song on this record. It samples the song by Sade, Tar Baby. And so my introduction to Sade was looking up what this sample song was, and well, I fell in love with the rest of the album here as well. To me, Tar Baby, though, remains probably my favorite song on this record, and I don't think they have ever actually played this song live, probably due to how personal and extremely intimate, I guess, the song is, and perhaps it's a bit touchy lyrically, I guess you could say. But the odd jazzy chords of this song, the horns, the fantastic rhythms, and of course, right, the silky smooth voice of Sade Adu herself just make this song so irresistible to me. Now, this may be one of my favorite records of all time, period. And right, from the wondrous and majestic climaxes of the opener, Is It a Crime, which I also think was sampled by MF Doom, to the ever so sweet and warm sound with those irresistible drum beats of The Sweetest Taboo. If I tell you now. Every single song here offers something different and interesting and unique from the others, but it remains firmly locked in that ever so smooth and welcoming jazz pop timbre, which I just love so much about this album here. It's just fantastic, man. And let me be clear, right? Sade is a band, right? It's not just simply a solo singer act. And this album really does a great job in showcasing the other members of the band. Every instrument is a strength and a strong point. And unlike a lot of other 80s pop acts, it doesn't simply rely on the charisma of the singer to carry the record, which is, of course, not to say that Sade's voice isn't charismatic. Far from it, right? It's so effervescent, smooth, and almost like otherworldly. I just absolutely love her singing voice. And here, it's just the best, man. I love it. Other highlights besides those songs mentioned earlier would be the chorus of the song, You're Not the Man, which just kind of wraps you up in like this warm jazz pop sing-along blanket as the chorus comes around. And the instrumental Punch Drunk is just such an easy and enjoyable listen, making me feel like I'm sitting by a fire in my study, even while driving through the miserable Canadian winters here. Everybody should check out this album. It's just so good. So, well, hello, my friends. We meet again. It has been a while. Where should we begin? We did it, boys. 25,000 subscribers. More people subscribe to me on this channel than can fit into the average hockey stadium. Truly, man, it means the world to me that so many people give enough of a shit about some asshole Canadian standing in his basement, you know, ranting and nerding out over metal. So I appreciate it. And to celebrate, I know I'm a few days late here, but you know, I was busy with IRL stuff and a video to finish, but I decided to make a video entirely not about metal. What a celebration. So maybe you can get to know me a little bit better, get to know what I like, I suppose. With that in mind, I'm not going to include anything tangentially related to metal, like rock. Otherwise, I'll yammer on for far too long. Although I will mention just a few of my favorites very, very quickly. Have Hearts, The Things We Carry, and Rush's 2112, probably two of my favorite records of all time, easily. And I would also like to mention Our Lady Peace's Gravity, Billy Talent 2, and Alice in Chains' Dirt. I know a lot of those are kind of more metal, rock adjacent, and Alice in Chains is almost certainly metal, but I just want to tell you guys, those are some of my other favorite albums as well. But what about other music genres? The first video on this channel is actually an upload of a Eurobeat CD I had bought off eBay. Super Eurobeat Mega Mix 86 to be exact. I was and still am a huge car guy, but back in 2014 or so, I had watched Initial D and it had completely changed my life, basically. And sent me into a spiral of like Japanese music and only listening to Eurobeat, really. It was like Eurobeat and Gallner Eyes for a while there. So I torrented all the Eurobeat mega mixes and I found number 86 to be by far my favorite. So I bought the CD off eBay Japan and uploaded it to YouTube so I could listen to it while driving. As my car at the time, it was a 1998 Red Evo 5. Didn't have a CD player, just had some weird Japanese stereo. So go listen to that. Easily has like 30 of my favorite Eurobeat songs of all time on it, and I just love that album, so I just want to mention that there. But like I said, a lot of these albums sort of came to me out of the blue in sort of serendipitous fashion here, right? I'm not out here looking for this stuff. I basically always just been a huge metal nerd, you know, for basically like my entire teenage and adult life. But there was once a time, for a brief period, where I became infatuated with Vaporwave. You know, real OGs know I even made 2 Vaporwave albums before I started making videos on metal here, right? That was during COVID, nothing else to do, so anyways. And it was about 10 years after it was cool, so there you go. And now I mentioned Floor Shop earlier. That was never my favorite Vaporwave release. For that, we will have to go with Dan Mason's Void to be my favorite Vaporwave ever. Your heart and soul. Now, whether or not this is quote-unquote real Vaporwave is like such a stupid argument. It all hinges around sampling and stuff like that. But to me, I love this because it is not sample-based Vaporwave, which basically means he just created this all himself, including the vocals, which enables Dan to sing about personal topics and not just whatever the vocal sample was singing about, right? This album, despite the name Void, doesn't really feel hopeless or nihilistic. In fact, quite the opposite. Instead, it feels like that one ending of The Simpsons, you know, the episode where Homer is like sitting on his car, staring at the night sky after his mother had passed away or whatever happened in that episode. This album is just the sound of longing and grief, but not sorrow, right? It's like quiet, personal reflection on good memories, while acknowledging the loss. That's what this album sounds like to me, and that's why I love it. This album found me in the midst of several personal losses, including my yaya, which is Greek for grandmother. She passed away, and then shortly after, my mom actually passed away from a brief and intense battle with cancer. So this album really found me at a very, very specific and very intense emotionally time in my life. It was just very, very cathartic. Opening track, I Miss You, just fills me with such warm, nostalgic feelings, right? Tears well up in my eyes. It's just so, so, so beautiful. Just great atmosphere and melodies created by Dan. I miss you, love. However, it's not all this beautiful melancholy, right? Heartache is such a catchy number with like this great singing and like an absolutely irresistible, addicting bass hook. Love that. And I also love the tumbling main melody of Wishful Thinking. It sort of sounds like those science videos. You guys remember those? Like those science videos your teacher would bring in and it had like those intros? I don't know. That's what it sounds like. Here, check it out. These lovers quarrels, they feel so wrong. This is just a fantastic album, and it's just one of Dan Mason's excellent, excellent catalog of music. Check them out. But boys, that's enough sad boy shit for now. Let's move on to something a little bit more invigorating and full of thumos, and that would have to be Gang Starr's 1998 album, Moment of Truth. Cultivate, multiply, motivate, or else we'll die. You know I'll be the master of the who, what, where, and why. So for this album, I was actually made aware of it due to a video game, actually, on the GameCube. Dave Mirra's BMX 2, or Dave Mirra's Freestyle BMX 2, which, let me just first say, rest in peace, both Guru and Dave Mirra. 2 incredible losses from that sort of millennial culture, right? This game had a freestyle mode where you could just ride around the maps forever, endlessly. But the game's soundtrack had only like 6 songs, and when you played, it wouldn't go to the next song. It would just repeat the song over and over and over again until you restart the level, and then it would choose a new song. And so Gangstar's Moment of Truth was one of these songs, and me and my brother played the song so much, and I heard the song over and over and over again. But yeah, the game would use a clean version, and it's actually one of the most intense and breathtaking pieces of music I've ever heard.
But just as you receive what is coming to you, everybody else is gonna get this too. I ain't no saint.
Seriously, you guys, it's just one of the most inspiring and motivating songs of all time. This album isn't all just a title track. The rest is just an absolute showcase of insanely creative production from DJ Premier, with highlights being JFK to LAX, Royalty, and Betrayal. I love how Betrayal gets more and more distorted and fuzzy as the song goes on.
Yo, they got me handcuffed. I'm down in central booking.
Has some of my favorite beats ever put down on a lot of these tracks. But I would be totally remiss to not mention Guru here as well, whose deep, monotone, and smooth voice delivers just some of the best rapping and lines and thought-provoking flows ever, with, of course, Moment of Truth being the highlight for me, but also Above the Clouds being like a real example of how good he was.
Above the clouds, where the sounds are original. Infinite skills create miracles.
This is probably my favorite rap album of all time, easily. Although I am also a fan of more modern rap hip hop, right? You know, back when I was in university and then a jaded bank employee, I had a lot of friends who would listen to like trap, I guess, right? SoundCloud rap. And, you know, I learned to enjoy it as well. You got to learn to enjoy things, boys. But in not the same way as metal, right? I was much more of a singles guy when it comes to rap hip hop. But there are a few albums that I really enjoyed from that like 2016 to 2022 era of rap. Travis Scott's Bird in the Trap and Juice WRLD's Goodbye to Romance. And so the one I find myself returning to the most is actually Austrian rapper Young Hurn and his first mixtape, 22.
Hey, du bist Skater, oder? Ja. Mach mal einen Kickflip, okay. Mach mal einen Kickflip, okay.
Now, while I do speak German to a reasonable degree, I find Young Hurn's Austrian Österreicher accent incredibly hard to understand, which honestly probably helps my enjoyment of this album. As my brother once said about a Drake song, that he's not really saying anything of substance, but it just sounds really cool, and he's stringing words together that just sound interesting. And like this fits the mixtape perfectly. In fact, I don't even really want to know what he's saying ever. I think it's just better off that way, as I find a lot of rap lyrics pretty cringe, I guess, for lack of a better term. Only available to listen to on YouTube, no doubt, due to copyright issues. I just love the vibes on this project. 9 with its Zelda on the Super Nintendo sample. It's probably just one of the best beats of all time, honestly. And it just goes so hard. In fact, a lot of these samples-based songs are probably why I like it so much, right? A lot of these tracks on this project feature a lot of vaporwave influence, which I really, really quite enjoy. You can see this from this 2022 comment that I enjoyed it back then, besides the last 3 songs, which I've come around upon, right? Stoli, Mama, Chillin', Mercedes are all just complete bangers. I don't really expect anyone here who watches this channel to like this. It's sort of, you had to have been there album. Just great vibes. Just throw it on and chill. Young Hurn 22. What a banger. All right, let's flip the script and genre completely. This time we move to Corb Lund, fellow Albertan and perhaps one of the best spokespersons for that down-to-earth, rural Alberta character that I know and love. Corb Lund is a country artist, but not like all the pop country that most of you are probably familiar with. 2007's Horse Soldier is a much more like folk country album here.
Well, I'm a hustler, I'm a Hun, I'm a wretched Englishman.
Officially known as Corb Lund and the Hurn Albertans, this album is just a much more folk country, or as Corb describes it, outlaw country album than what you're used to, I think. You might like it.
Well, I wanna be in the cavalry if they send me off to war.
Opening song, I Want to Be in the Cavalry, while also being like a fantastic ode to the gallantry of the cavalry band, takes its main melody and rhythm from another Canadian musical icon who is Stan Rogers in his song The Idiot.
I often take these night shift walks when the foreman's not around.
Which describes in a tongue-in-cheek way how a person moving from the east coast of Canada, right? A lot of people move from the east coast of Canada to the west to work in the oil fields, how they are an idiot for doing so. But in that song, he kind of makes fun of that. So Corb takes this idea, and Corb being from Alberta, you know, the same place I am from, turns it on its head, and in a tongue-in-cheek reference to cavalry, right? He wants to be in the cavalry. Does that make him an idiot? I don't know. It's just such a cool, like, Canadian full circle moment.
Well, I want to be in the cavalry if they send me off to war.
The stink, and I always think back to that eastern town.
Horse Soldier is like a historical love song to the many permutations of the horse soldier from all the various cultures around the world. A true history nerds country song if there ever was one. Absolute banger.
And I knew Saladin and rode his swift Arabians, harassing dunes, crusaders.
I swear, boys, I've ridden a horse like maybe twice in my life, and nothing makes me long to saddle up than this album here. I just love it. It's so good, man. Corb himself is an extremely respectable horse rider and cowboy, so singing about cowboy life and horses and stuff like that comes off as very, very authentic. A handful of other horse-based songs fill out this album, perhaps my favorite being The Horse I Rode In On.
He was a big sorrel gelding with a golden streaked mane.
Which is a beautiful ballad to Corb's horse, who had passed away before a big rodeo show. Just a very beautiful and sorrowful and heartbreakingly beautiful track there about a horse. Now, this isn't all there is. There's a ton of Spanish/Mexican, or I guess you could say musica ranchera influence here as well, which is just such a unique sound with Corb's like very strong Albertan accent and singing. Songs like Student Visas, A Leader on Losing Control, and My Saddle Horse Has Died all feature this sound, and it's really, really interesting, and it just works so well. And I love the horns in the latter. Gives us huge Johnny Cash vibes. So good.
My saddle horse has died.
But there are a few more traditionally, I guess you would say, like American country songs here as well that are still enjoyable and good to listen to, mostly due to Corb's deadpan, serious delivery and some pretty funny lyrics. Lament for Lester Cousins, Hard on Equipment, and Family Reunion show that Corb, right, doesn't really take himself all that seriously, which I think is needed for a country singer.
He's been rounding off bolts since the age of 14. Was that a 5/8 or 9/16?
This is a great, beautiful, grand, sorrowful, and inspiring album. Easily my favorite Corb Lund release and country album ever. Check this one out if you just like great songwriting and Western life, or just like history nerd in general, man. But let me move on and give you guys two more picks here. So second last here will have to be Ceremonials by Florence and the Machine. Now, I became aware of this album in a very strange way as well, right? I became with this album through one of the weird compilation of Florence and Machine covers by Sumerian Records back in 2014. Now, I loved all those Sumerian bands, so when that came out, I was super curious to see just who were they all covering. And well, I fell in love with Florence's 2011 album Ceremonials, which, by the way, let me know if you want to cover that weird Sumerian cover record. I don't know. This would be really like the first pop album that I ever fell in love with. No doubt due to the easing of my firmly metal mindset by the previously mentioned Eurobeat obsession. But, you know, what can you say? But man, like, this album is just art pop done to a masterful degree, boys. I just love how grand and ambitious this album sounds. The arrangement and so many different pieces of music and musical instruments and drums and everything like that. And Florence's fantastic singing and lyricism is just like so remarkable and thoroughly enjoyable. It just makes me feel like I'm floating so many times, especially on the song Only If For a Night, which has to be maybe one of my favorite songs ever. Period, man. Amazing, amazing song.
Threw my arms around her legs, came to weeping.
Now, Shake It Out is a song that Taylor Swift wished that she wrote. I mean, just listen to these lyrics, guys. Quote, "And I've been a fool and I've been blind. I can never leave the past behind. I can see no way. I can see no way. I'm always dragging that horse around. And all of his questions, such a mournful sound. So tonight, I'm gonna bury that horse in the ground." End quote.
It's always darkest before the dawn. Check it out, check it out, check it out.
I mean, this is like just gorgeous, gorgeous lyricism here. I love how these songs just feel so grand yet intimate at the same time. I love it. What the Water Gave Me, Never Let Me Go, and Spectrum like all fit this mold.
In the arms of the ocean, I carry you.
And I just really, really love this album. And it's just such an easy listen back to front. I am forever grateful to Sumerian Records, not only for Asking Alexandria, not only for Born of Osiris or Periphery, but for breaking me out of my metal and Eurobeat trance and introducing me to one of my favorite albums of all time. Shout out Sumerian. So last but not least would certainly have to be Phil Collins's solo debut album from 1981, Face Value. And yes, this is indeed the album that has In the Air Tonight, but it is so much more than that, boys. This album is introduced to me through a band member, shout out Brandon. We all know In the Air Tonight is like a glorious, glorious song, but there's just so many other fantastic tracks here. My favorite of which would probably have to be The Roof is Leaking.
It's been months now since we heard from our Mary. I wonder.
Which is like a very remarkable and unique song for Phil. It's very folky and rural sounding. It is even like lo-fi in its production, right? But I just love the meaning, the message, the lyrics, and the melodies here. It's just like so sweet and wholesome. It just brings tears to my eyes every time. It reminds me of like a different past time.
My wife's expecting, but I hope she can wait.
A lot of these songs sort of sound like Genesis tunes here, and like there's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? If Living Me Is Easy is just such a glorious slow jam ballad, just feels so warm, especially with these analog synths. I just love it. But the more upbeat pop jams also get me going, don't get me wrong. Thunder and Lightning, I Miss Again, Hand in Hand, and many, many others, man.
So you finally came right out and said it, girl.
I just love the production on this album. The horns, the synths, the pianos, and especially Phil Collins' singing, the way it's produced. It's just all sounds so good. And I love it. Pure banger album. Now, I could go on and on and on, but this video is long enough. I need to get back to metal nerd stuff. So boys, let me know your thoughts down below on my picks. Let me know some of your favorite non-metal albums down below. And boys, here's to that next 25K subscribers. Once again, thank you so much. Truly means the world to me, guys. Truly. I've been Varvis. Cheers.